to college or sometimes to the ATCs, they find, oh, I should have done this in high school. So on the encouraging side, I think we have started to move the needle about communicating the importance of post-secondary education and college to students from underserved communities. We are starting to see enrollment rates for students of color increase in college. We have to work on retaining those students and graduating those students. So we're on our way, but we need to do a much better job of this.
So when you talk younger, I guess that would be our range of K-12. I'm going to go back and sound a little bit repetitive. Our elementary school teachers are generalists. So we ask for people to excite them about areas of STEM, and their degree is in elementary education, and their experience with STEM, be it math or science or engineering, was probably, and correct me, I think you need breadth in life sciences and a breadth and a depth in physical, and you can kind of be creative. So they've had 4 courses in general science to teach elementary school, because the majority is in their profession. So I'm going to go backwards a little bit and say, if we want to excite them younger, we probably need to engage with those of you and give them the resources, because they may as adults not be familiar with the ever-changing technical world. There are careers and jobs and things available that even those of us in high school that have science degrees had no idea we were prepping kids to be or to do. So one of the ways I would say is better partnerships with your public settings, particularly with our elementary school educators. They're not math majors in general. They're not generally science majors. They're not STEM people. And so if you're asking STEM people, non-STEM people to promote a STEM cause, you got to disconnect there. So that might be one strategy that we really look at as a community of how do we help those who have those kids 8 hours a day excite and encourage.
Yeah, from the stories I've done, I've really seen that you have to start it in elementary school to get them excited, because by the time they get to middle school, that's kind of the defining point whether they're going to pursue STEM or not in high school. Okay, industry, do you have a quick comment, and then we're going to move to our last question.
Yeah, I think this is an area where, again, I'll just fly the Hill Air Force Base flag. We're not going to dive into Ogden and stand up a separate program. Programs like Junior Achievement are out there. The infrastructure is there. If we could vector more people into programs like Junior Achievement that go in weekly or go in even once a year in a very focused day, we can provide that influence. So I think those programs are out there, and we as industry, we as a society, really need to look ourselves in the face and say, are we using the great materials and organizations that are already out there trying to get into our underserved areas?
And the STEM Action Center, one of those organizations that helps get kids excited early on, they just had that huge STEM fair back in March for junior high students to get them interested in STEM with a bunch of different industry represented, which was really neat to see. Okay, let's get our last question here. Tammy, last question, or can we do a little more? Where are we at? Sorry, putting you on the spot. I just don't want to get in trouble. 10 minutes, okay.
I'm Barbara Gentry. I'm a district science specialist in Jordan School District. Research shows repeatedly that the single strongest influence on a child's education after their parents is the quality of the classroom teacher. I did some research recently looking at the College Board website. I wanted to know which occupations paid the best. Well, they're STEM occupations. Which occupations is of the greatest demand? The top 4, one was computer science, it wasn't the top. The other 3, elementary ed, middle school ed, high school ed. We are facing teacher shortages, big ones. In Jordan District, we had difficulty filling our secondary language arts and social studies teacher shortages this year. Much math and science, we're just accustomed to those shortages. And often people say, oh, industry professionals that come work in your schools. Often they come, but they often don't last very long. It's a tough, tough job. Our trained teacher professionals, the turnover rate is about 20% in the secondary science teachers in my district. They last about an average of about 5 years. So it's tough. And about the time we get them trained, off they go. I would argue that one of the most important things industry could do is to promote respect for teachers, increased funding for teachers. We lost our professional development. I do not have access to teachers to train them with the fine ideas I have here because we lost our professional development days about 7 years ago when we changed our tax structure in this state. I think our industry partners would be very helpful if they pressured some of the fine people that were here yesterday to increase funding in the state.
Okay, Tammy, go ahead.
I can't help but add to Barbara's comments. In fact, Granite School District, for those of you, if you think there's not a shortage, Granite School District, to fulfill the shortage of engineering teachers in some of their high schools, just had to get 3 graduate students from the University of Utah to tag team in teaching so that they could actually offer engineering this year. So it's a real problem. And I mean, I'm not saying those graduate students won't do a fine job and they'll learn their stuff by having to teach it, but
I'm going to add to that. We no longer in Davis have, well, I shouldn't say no longer, we don't this semester have any student teachers in science because we hired them before they student taught. So they are now teaching without ever having that experience to learn how to teach. And I agree, Barb, we don't keep them very long when we don't take care of them at the beginning and we throw them in, and it's different than being a scientist. Teaching is a different industry and it requires a different set of skill sets. Not to say one is better or but they're different, and it just requires. And so I say amen, Barbara, we are starting down on teachers as well, and so we say, why don't we have prepared chemistry and physics students? I don't have chemistry and physics teachers. So industry could help with maybe looking at our districts and helping us some of those areas. So that is a true shortage. It's big this year.
Does industry have any response? I guess my question to that is, what's the solution? How do we get more teachers here in Utah that want to stay in the profession? Do they need higher pay? Do they need, that's what it is. So that's a question, right, for our lawmakers.
I don't know the answer of how we do it, but there are some interesting societal. We talk about changing things. It's hard to work in an industry that in the newspaper every single day reminds you of how short you are to meeting the bar. And so when a young kid is coming out to graduate from high school and they get to pick all the professions they want to be, and they think, wow, I want to be in the one that's in the newspaper that says I produce stupid children. I mean, how many of us line up in pages to say, I don't want to make $1 million and I want to constantly be reminded that I'm not doing a great job. So there are some things as a community that we could do to enhance and encourage that education's important. And that's a candid and a slap answer. I know that everyone doesn't feel that way, and I don't know why kids aren't graduating in the field and why they aren't wanting to come and teach. I think every person would have a different reason for why they stayed or why they did not stay. But it isn't incredibly lucrative. It is hard for males to support families in the classroom. Some of our greatest male teachers move through our administrative systems into areas that create a better family wage. I didn't say not a good one, but they're better. And so there are some obstacles that we face that are our own industry's problems. But it is real. It's hard sometimes to create an excited group of students to come out when you don't even have teachers ready to teach. So there are some problems we have within our own industry. I don't necessarily think that's everyone else's problem to solve, but we have some big issues in public education with getting teachers ready to go.
Yeah, that's a real struggle. Does industry have anything to add to that? Yeah, we all agree. I mean, we all agree with that. Okay, that concludes our panel discussion. It's about 10:30 right now. Thank you so much. This was a great discussion, great interaction from the audience, great panelists. So thank you. At least we now have some ideas of what we need to work on as a state. And I really think, too, it's been a good collaboration between business and industry and education. I know they're two separate things, but I feel like this morning they became one. So that's what we wanted to see. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference here. Thank you.